Hello everyone, today we're going to be looking at the distance formula. So our goal today is that we can find the distance between any 2 points that show up on the coordinate grid, okay? So starting off, if my points, they form a horizontal or a vertical line, I really don't have to use the distance formula. So if I see something like this, or they're just going from left to right, or if my points are going up and down, all I really have to do is count and see how far it is from -6 to +2. So this distance right here would just be 8. All I have to do is see how far those 2 points are apart. On this one, it goes from -20. This one's not marked, but it's going to be -5, okay? So those are 15 units apart. So that is our distance there, okay? Distance is always a positive because we can't travel a negative distance, okay? So we're traveling 15 units from one spot to the other there. Okay, so most of the time when we're finding distance, we're going to have to use the distance formula. So the distance formula is used when finding the length of a line that's not horizontal or vertical, okay? And most of our lines are going to be that. When you're using the distance formula, remember to label your points as x1 and x1, y1 and x2, y2. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples of that. So find the distance between 4, -3 and -7, 2. Okay, so really all we have to do is just plug these things into the formula. So this is x1, y1, this is x2, y2, and we're just gonna substitute these things in. So we have d is equal to the square root of, okay, x2 is -7, x1 is 4, so -4 squared, plus 2 minus -3 squared, okay? So these negatives right here, they're gonna cancel out and make a positive, so let's just rewrite that. D is equal to square root -7 minus 4 squared plus 2 plus 3 squared, okay? So let's start with these parentheses, okay? D is equal to the square root of -11 squared plus 5 squared, okay? Let's go ahead and square those numbers. So D is equal to the square root of 121 plus 25, okay? So add those together, and we get, let's go up here and do that. D is equal to the square root of 146. So that is our distance, okay? Sometimes we're gonna be asked to write our answer in simplest radical form. Other times you're just gonna be asked for a decimal, okay? So let's start by just breaking this thing apart. So I can divide it by 2 and 73, okay? And then 73, let's see what factor 73 has. 73 cannot be divided by 3. '73 is actually prime, so we cannot break that apart anymore. So this right here would be the simplest radical form. So sometimes you're going to be asked to write your answer in the simplest radical form, but if you're asked for it as a decimal, we could also say D is equal to, and we would take the square root of 146, and our actual distance is going to be 12.1. Okay, so sometimes your answer should look like this. Sometimes it'll look like this. The instructions will tell you what to do there. Okay, so here's another example. Again, I've got x1, y1, x2, and y2, and let's just sub those things in. So here we have D is equal to the square root of 3 minus negative 5, so that's actually going to turn into 3 plus 5 because of the double negatives, plus 7 minus negative 1, which is actually going to be plus 1 with the double negatives, okay? So now combine inside the parentheses, so d is equal to the square root of 8 squared plus 8 squared. So 8 squared is 64, so d is equal to root 64 plus 64. Add those two together, and we get d is equal to the square root of 128. Okay, so if I wanted my answer in simplest radical form, I would do this. So I'd take root 128 and then simplify it. So 2 and 64. Notice that 64 is a perfect square. The square root of that is 8. So that breaks apart as 8 times 8. Since I have a pair of 8s, 8 comes to the outside. Root 2 is stuck on the inside. So that would be my simplest radical form, okay? If I'm asked for a decimal answer, I would just type in my calculator square root of 128, and it's about 11.3. Okay, so just read the instructions of your problem. Sometimes it'll say radical, sometimes it will say decimal. So when we're finding distance, the distance formula is actually very similar to the Pythagorean theorem. So we can actually use the Pythagorean theorem as well, okay? And all we have to do to use Pythagorean theorem is to graph this thing, and we want to create a right triangle. And what we want to find is how far up and how far over do I have to go to get from one point to the other. So I'm gonna draw this right triangle here. And the length of this side right here, it goes from 1 to 3, so that length is actually 2, okay? The length of the other side is actually 6. So if I'm trying to find this distance right here, I know that the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared is c squared. I'm basically just trying to find c here. So what I have is 2 squared plus 6 squared is equal to x squared. So that's going to be 4 plus 36 equal to x squared, and then 40 is equal to x squared. So then I just need to take the square root of both, and we end up here with x is equal to root 40, okay? Then I just need to simplify. So if I break that apart, I've got 2 and 20, 2 and 10, 2 and 5, okay? So these 2's pair up and come outside, okay? These 2 do not, so we're gonna have a 10 on the inside. So that would be my simplest radical form, okay? If I was asked for my answer as a decimal, it would be this, about 6.3. Okay, so again, radical form and decimal form, okay? Okay, let's do one more here. So here we can either use Pythagorean theorem or the distance formula. I'm gonna use Pythagorean theorem on this one. So if I form a right triangle out of this one, so I'm gonna go down and over, okay? So I'm going down 2 and I went over 5. Okay, I'm trying to find this. So if this is a right triangle, I know that 2 squared plus 5 squared is equal to x squared. Okay, so I have 4 plus 25 is equal to x squared. So that means that 29 is equal to x squared, and x is going to be root 29, okay? 29 actually does not simplify because it's prime, so that would be my distance here. I could also write it as a decimal, and that would be x is, the square root of 29 is about 5.4. okay? So you can choose either the distance formula or the Pythagorean theorem. So whichever one you're more comfortable with, you just need to be able to find the distance between 2 points, okay? So please go check out the assignment on Canvas. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a great day.